Design a product to help people find a doctor. Now, that's a very interesting question. Right from the beginning, I have some clarifications I want to cover. Healthcare is a very country-specific thing. Things tend to work very differently from country to country. I'm going to go in this question assuming my knowledge of the U.S. healthcare system. It might be different in different places. I'll try to cover that as much as possible, but it might be a little more U.S.-centric than we like, based on my assumptions. Okay, so before we get started, I want to sort of lay out my plan for how we're going to cover this, the framework I'll use. First, I want to talk about the goal. What is the purpose of this? Second, the users. Third, the user needs. And then we'll talk about some solutions. And lastly, we'll prioritize those. All right, let's get started with the goal. Maybe a simple or obvious goal we could state as help as many people as possible find a doctor. And I think that's pretty well aligned, although I want to maybe extend that a little bit into help as many people as possible find medical care. And I realize that's expanding the scope a little bit of the initial question, but I think that helps us have the opportunity to build something a little more ambitious. So we'll set that as the goal, help as many people as possible find medical care. Great. Now thinking about our users for a product like that. First, we have two sides, the doctors or medical providers, and then we have the end user, maybe you might call it the patient. So let's talk about each of those separately. First, the doctor. So on the doctor side, there are two big segments we need to talk right from the beginning. Are we thinking about general practitioners or specialists? And this is an interesting question. They're very different, and certainly building a product for either of these groups is going to be very different. Let's keep both of these in mind. I think we may have an opportunity to build something for specialists in particular, given we have such scale that we have the ability to connect really niche people with each other, given our scale. I think both of these are really quite interesting, and I love to leave them on the table for now. And as we progress to the solution, we may narrow that down a little bit. Now, thinking about end users, here I could see a whole spectrum in terms of how much they use healthcare. On one end is people with chronic conditions, all the way to people who are more, shall we say, casual users of healthcare. Maybe they're generally healthy, they go for a preventative checkup, annual checkup, that kind of thing, occasional issues that come up, but generally casual users. And then on the other end, we have the chronic user, and maybe another group that doesn't kind of fit in this spectrum is more emergency use. Like I broke a bone, or something serious happened, or I think I have this very serious acute condition. I want to talk to a doctor right away. I think it's fair to say that in the emergency case, we probably want to rule that out entirely. It's going to be difficult for us to do this well. We're going to take on a lot of liability. There are already decent systems to address that, 911 and even emergency clinics, that kind of thing. So given our mission of helping as many people find medical care, I think there are already decent enough solutions for finding emergency medical care or urgent medical care. But I think the opportunities outside of that, from a chronic condition to more healthy users, I think there's a lot of room for us there. All right, so thinking about user needs, and I really want to make sure that we think about both sides of this interaction as first-class citizens. Let's start first with the doctor. What do doctors want? I mean, certainly they want to have a full schedule. They want paying patients. They want to be essentially compensated for their work, both of being high level of utilization and that people pay them well for their services. They want people that are low overhead. And this maybe I would describe as the functional needs. They basically, want somebody that's not so much trouble and that pays them well so they can earn a living. But above just these basic requirements, I think there's a level above that of emotional needs they really want to make sure to cover. If I think about the doctors in my life, they want to feel the satisfaction of helping somebody. They want to be seen as experts by their peers. They want to be appreciated for their expertise and their knowledge. They want to be valued similarly. And the money points we were talking about earlier are connected to this, but there's a higher level, an emotional need of being respected in your community and appreciated by your patients. Let's see, anything else? They want to feel like they're doing good by their patient. I think they want to feel a connection to patients as well. They want to feel a connection to outcomes that patients have rather than this kind of transactional interaction. Cool. Let's talk about our next group, the patients, shall we call them.